Man, there's an old saying. There's an old saying that you become most like the people you spend most of your time with. Well, Pete Hegseth has been spending a lot of time with President Donald Trump, and he is definitely becoming more and more like President Donald Trump, especially when it comes to handling the press corps, of which I might point out, he was at one time a member himself. What's up? This is Mark Kaye, Saves the Republic. But I mean, don't hold that against him. I too was a member of not the press corps, but the media, and God, that was an experience I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Man, I got to tell you, well, it's an exciting day today. Pete Hegseth did a press conference this morning, and I'm pretty sure he called this press conference just so he could like lambast the press. I'm pretty sure he was like, you know what? I got to set these press people straight. These press people, I'm sure maybe Donald Trump even had something to do with it, but I'm pretty sure what happened was Pete Hegseth woke up and said, the press is out of control. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call a press conference and I'm just going to yell at them and tell them how horrible they are. And Donald Trump was like, that's what I always do. So that would be my recommendation to anybody. Hold a press conference and just yell at the press, because I think they enjoy it too. I think they like to be, it's like a dog. It's like when you have a dog, you got to make sure the dog wants to be trained. The dog wants a master. The dog wants discipline. And they always say the least happiest dogs are the ones that have no structure, that have no human in their life telling them what to do and that kind of thing. And so it's very important. It's very important to have a dog. I'm sorry, to have the press trained like you would. You don't want the press leaking all over your car. But Donald Trump knows about the press and dogs. For example, he posted on Truth Social. And I read this morning in during the 47daily.com podcast. But if you haven't yet heard the 47 Daily, you really should. It's one of my favorite things that I do. It's one of my two favorite podcasts that I produce every single day. And this is what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. Natasha Bertrand, who is the reporter who not only covered the Hunter Biden laptop story and said it was Russian disinformation, but is now saying that the attack on Fordo and the other nuclear places in the other nuclear reactors and sites in Iran was nowhere near as successful as Donald. It wasn't complete obliteration like Donald Trump said. He's lying. Natasha Bertrand should be fired from CNN. I watched her for 3 days doing fake news. She should be immediately reprimanded and then thrown out like a dog. She lied on the laptop from hell story, and now she lied on the nuclear site story, attempting to destroy our Patriot pilots by making them look bad when, in fact, they did a great job and hit pay dirt. Total obliteration. She should not be allowed to work at fake news CNN. It's people like her who destroyed the reputation of a once great network. Her slant was so obviously negative. Besides, she doesn't have what it takes to be an on-camera correspondent. Not even close. Fire Natasha. Now, I don't know exactly what he means by she doesn't have what it takes to be an on-camera correspondent, but I have a pretty good idea. I have a pretty good idea what that means, but I'm not gonna put words in President Donald Trump's mouth. You know what I am going to do? I'm going to play for you the words coming out of Pete Hegseth's mouth, because Pete Hegseth probably has been watching President Donald Trump. He's been watching President Donald Trump and listening to him, and he's been right beside him for all of these press conferences. He was right beside him with NATO. He was right beside him for the press conferences after the attacks for Iran. He sees how Donald Trump handles the press like a boss, and Pete Hegseth was like, I want to do that. So he called a press conference this morning, and man, he let them. The first thing he did was he read the assessment that has been misrepresented in the media, the assessment that the media has lied about and it misinterpreted so that they could make this attack look like it was not the success that Donald Trump was laying claim. Here he is listening. Listen to the the derogatory contempt and the overall frustration and patronization in Pete Hegseth's voice.
I want to read some of the assessments that have been provided, because whether it's fake news, CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, there's been fawning coverage of a preliminary assessment. I've had a chance to read it. Every outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now.
By the way, I don't want to call him out because he's doing a good job, but it's MSDNC. I made the same mistake myself yesterday. It's MSDNC is the official. That's the official name of them now.
Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment. It's preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report there are gaps in the information. It says in the report multiple linchpin assumptions are what this assessment, a linchpin assumption, you know what that is? That means your entire premise is predicated on a linchpin. If you're wrong, everything else is wrong. And yet, still, this report acknowledges it's likely severe damage. Again, this is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful. I'm going to get to the chairman in a moment because he's going to lay out the particulars for you based on his professional military experience. But here's what other folks are saying. The DIA that put that report out says that this is a preliminary low-confidence report and will continue to be refined as additional intelligence becomes available. How about the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission? The devastating U.S. strikes on Fordow destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable. Have any of these quotes made their way into the New York Times or the Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN? Any of these quotes? How about this one? This is a new one from the UN, the United Nations. No friend of the United States, or certainly Israel often. Here's the head of the UN Atomic Energy Agency this morning, Rafael Grossi. U.S. and Israeli strikes caused enormous damage to Iran's nuclear sites. Don't take my word for it. How about the IDF's chief of staff? I can say here that the assessment is that we significantly damaged the nuclear program, setting it back by years. I repeat, years. The Iranian foreign minister, the spokesman, our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure. I'm sure that's an understatement. John Radcliffe, the director of the CIA, putting out a statement just last night. CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by recent targeted strikes. This includes new intelligence from a historically reliable, very different than preliminary assessment with low confidence. He's saying historically reliable and accurate source and method that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed.
Yeah. So there's Pete Hegseth, I told you, and he's doing what needs to be done. He's countering the narrative and he's getting quotes out there that are 100% counter to what CNN and MSDNC and the New York Times have been putting out in this preliminary assessment. But you'll notice the interesting thing about this is that this is common information that anybody can get. And it's not just given to the Secretary of Defense, it's given to the media. They just choose to ignore it. All of these reports, and it's true, it's the CIA, it's the Secretary of Defense, it's the DNI, it's Israel, it's the IDF, it's the UN. Even the Iranian foreign minister has said, oh yeah, we got hit hard, but we got smacked around big time, man. We are bloodied and we are nowhere near. I mean, he said it in, different words, but when Iran announces that they were pretty much devastated, you can take that as fact, but that's not at all what CNN and MSDNC and the New York Times have been describing. And why is that? It's because, well, we know that they're scum.
The New York Times is scum.
Yeah.
MSDNC is scum.
Yeah. And, oh, wait, hold on.
MSDNC is scum.
Oh, no, I lost the CNN. I got to get the CNN one back because that's literally one of my favorites. And then Pete Hegseth took questions from the media. But you know what's interesting? The media is always going to be the media. It doesn't matter what you say to them. It doesn't matter what proof you give them. It doesn't matter what reports you read. It doesn't matter how many times you prove them wrong or you smack them around and say, you guys are doing a disservice to the country. It doesn't matter how many times they've been found to be incorrect about something, whether it's Russian collusion, whether it's the Steele dossier, whether it's the Hunter Biden laptop, whether it's Joe Biden being mentally and physically able to perform and execute the office of president, whether it's any of whatever it is, all of those things that they've been wrong about, they don't care. They're just going to keep being wrong and asking dumb questions. And Pete Hegseth got a really dumb question from somebody in the media about female pilots.
Why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope the men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women. I'm very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. We don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games. Yes.
Yeah, and we're not going to, that's the old regime. We're not going to apologize because I said boys and bombers. I'm not going to apologize because I was like, what's up, dudes? Or I was, we don't do that here. We don't play the identity politics game. We're just like, you know what? We're a fighting force. We got boys and bombers. We got all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter who's doing what. The job was done, and that is exactly what we're focused on. Jennifer Griffin, who, and this was awkward because Pete Hegseth, remember, was a Fox News anchor. He worked for Fox and Friends Weekend Edition for years, several years. He worked with the same people in the press corps, the same people that he's now badmouthed. Like literally, he's standing up there on the flip side of this. No longer is he a prince of the media. No longer is he a TV darling. No longer is he a member of the Fox News Corps that can do no wrong. Now, he is a member of the cabinet. He's the Secretary of Defense. He's the guy to blame. And so the media, his friends in the media, including Jennifer Griffin from the Pentagon, have treated him like they would Donald Trump or anyone else in the Trump administration. And so Pete Hegseth is treating them the way that Donald Trump would as well.
It's about highly enriched uranium. Do you have certainty that all the highly enriched uranium was inside the Fordo Mountain, or some of it, because there were satellite photos that showed more than a dozen trucks there 2 days in advance? Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect, but Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
I report about the ventilation shafts on Saturday night. And in fact, I was the first to describe the B-2 bombers, the refueling, the entire mission with great accuracy. So I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here, and I appreciate that. So we're looking at all aspects of intelligence and making sure we have a sense of what was where.
Yeah, and then he goes off over the. He's like, "Look, all you guys you basically all stink."
There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that, because of the hatred of this press corps, are undermined because people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible. And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time and time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is, you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated, choose your word. This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years. and no other presidents had the courage to actually do.
And this is something we talk about all the time. The left, the media, the folks in the Democrat Party, they're incapable of celebrating American greatness, because if they celebrate American greatness, that means that there's no problems with America. And if there's no problems with America, they have no reason to be here. They have no reason to exist, because the Democrats, their job is to find problems with the United States of America and exploit them for political gain and financial profit. Look at Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter took a situation in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a police was detaining a black man who died, and they turned it into a multi-million-dollar protest. And the founder of that organization, of Black Lives Matter, she bought a bunch of houses. Pardon me. She had 6 houses? She had 6 houses. She didn't have those houses before George Floyd died. But after George Floyd died, after BLM became a thing, after there were rallies around the country, after T-shirts were being sold and donations were flooding in, she had 6 houses in various different spots around the country. She had a house in L.A. She had a house in New York. She had a house somewhere she had more houses than Bernie Sanders. And that guy's got a lot of houses. Only 3. I only have 3. Yes, I have 3 houses. Just 3. Just 3. Most Americans barely have 1. They rent it from the bank. You have 3, and we're supposed to feel, and it doesn't matter. That's exactly what they do. They can't have an America that is to be celebrated, because they need an America with a problem. They need America with problems and issues and battles that they can exploit for their own, again, personal gain. They need power, and they only get power by going out and finding a minority group and letting them know that America is bad for them. We've seen it over and over again. The Democrats, for years, exploited black voters by going out and saying Republicans are keeping you poor, Republicans are keeping you in the slums, Republicans are racist, Republicans are white supremacists, over and over and over again, when really it was the Democrat Party that kept them down, offered them free cell phones that never came, told them they were going to fix their education system and didn't, create jobs. Here comes Donald Trump, and all of a sudden everybody's getting more money, including African-American voters. It's the same with Latino voters. The Democrats said, come on into this country. It's okay that you're illegal. We won't hunt you down. We're going to give you everything you could possibly need. And you know what happens? All the other minority groups that they've been trying to placate start complaining, because they're losing jobs and benefits and all kinds of things to this new immigrant illegal community that the Democrats have been importing. And now Donald Trump is sending them all back home, and they're angry at the Democrats again because they were promised amnesty. They were promised immunity, because the Democrats look at the problems of this country, not the solutions. Pete Hegseth looks at a solution. He goes, look, Iran was making nuclear weapons. We bombed them. They're not anymore. Woo, let's have a party. And the press is like, but did you really bomb them enough? Did you really destroy them? Or did you just semi-destroy them? There's no fighting. There's no killing. There's no battling. Iran came to the table. Steve Witkoff said it himself yesterday. He goes, Iran would not come to the table if they were able to make a nuclear weapon. Iran would not stop fighting with Israel, which they've been doing for decades, if they were able to make a nuclear weapon. There is no nuclear enrichment going on right now in Iran. There are no centrifuges. There's none of that, because we destroyed it. And instead of celebrating, you're out here trying to tell us that we're not as lethal as we like to think we are. It's kind of a stupid argument, but it's the only thing they have. Speaking of stupid arguments, let me tell you about Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett is, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but now she's going after not just Donald Trump, but Melania Trump. I know, it's weird. It's weird. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, I guess she got sick and tired of picking a fight with the president, or the mofo, as she calls him, or the dude in the White House. She's so hell-bent out of shape that she didn't get a say in whether or not we were going to bomb Iran or bomb the nuclear facilities or whatever it was. She thought it was her. Somebody sold her a bag of goods and told her that Congress has all this power, and that as a congresswoman, she would have all this power, and she doesn't, and she won't. But she believed it, man. She fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and she thinks that she is privy to Donald Trump's power. And this is something that all Democrats, look at the judges. The judges think they can run foreign policy. The judges think they can run immigration policy. And now the Democrats in Congress think that they can run Donald Trump's military, military endeavors. Jasmine Crockett is so fed up with Donald Trump that now she's going after his wife in Congress. In the record, she started attacking Melania. Now, again, I know Donald Trump gets angry at people, but you go after his family and that's gonna be the end. Listen to this.
Since we're talking about integrity, I'm confused as to why my Republican colleagues aren't talking about the lack of integrity when it comes to the president's family's visas. Let me remind y'all that Melania, the First Lady, a model, and when I say model, I'm not talking about Tyra Banks, Cindy Crawford, or Naomi Campbell level, applied for and was given an EB-1 visa. And what that stands for is an Einstein visa. Now, y'all that don't know, let me tell you how you receive an Einstein visa. You're supposed to have some sort of significant achievement, like being awarded a Nobel Peace Prize or a Pulitzer, being an Olympic medalist, or having other sustained extraordinary abilities and success in sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics. Last time I checked, the First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
She, by the way,
Nevertheless, what Republicans are doing.
hold on. She really just said the math ain't mathin' here. I listened to it a couple times. Let me play it. Let me play it for you once again. She just said, that's a direct quote, the math ain't mathin' here.
Reconciliation. The First Lady had none of those accolades under her belt. It doesn't take an Einstein to see that the math ain't mathin' here.
The fact that she used Einstein and the term mathin' in the same sentence, like, do they not understand how ridiculous they look? The math ain't mathin'. Well, the math ain't mathin', and the reading ain't reading, and the writing ain't writing. It's not, I understand how it could be confusing to her, but that's not, mathin' is not a word. But then Jasmine Crockett uses a lot of words that I don't think are words.
Nevertheless, what Republicans are doing with this reconciliation process, the travel bans and revoking visas, jeopardizes our national security. It threatens our communities, our higher education, and our economy. Visas like the largely vetted J visas for higher education and M visas for trade, training, attract the next innovators, medical providers, researchers, and educators that we need to build on American success.
Yeah. So the math ain't mathin' for her. And for whatever reason, she's trying to say the Republicans are trying to get rid of illegal immigrants. Really, what they should be doing is getting rid of Melania Trump. Is that what they're saying? They should get rid of somebody who is married to the president of the United States because she's here on an EB-1 visa, which, by the way, does not stand for Einstein. It stands for employment-based. It's an employment-based visa. These are all just a bunch of lies out of Jasmine Crockett's mouth. But again, that's what Jasmine Crockett's mouth is for. God created it for lies. And you need lies, because without lies, you would never be. It's like the yin and the yang. Without evil, there's no good. Without sun, there's no, light, there's no dark. Without Jasmine Crockett, there's no truth. So that's the barometer, how we measure the truth against whatever comes out of Jasmine Crockett's mouth. But it is sad that they're attacking the First Lady as an immigrant. Because again, and it's weird. It goes back and forth, because these are people that supposedly love immigrants, but they don't love all immigrants. They only love illegal immigrants. This is the big differentiation. They only like illegal immigrants, not legal immigrants. Immigrants are amazing. In fact, I was at a rally. Maybe you saw the video footage. There was a rally in Jacksonville, Florida, and I showed up and I got out of the car and I walked up. Do I even have it here? Maybe I have it here. I'll play it for you here in just a second. And what happened was, as soon as I walked up, these people started chanting, "Immigrants are welcome here." And I thought to myself, that's great. I'm an immigrant. I was like, yes, I'm welcome here. That's fantastic. I'm from Canada. Well, guess what? It became pretty clear to me very soon that they were not talking about all immigrants. They were talking about illegal immigrants. And in fact, I was not welcome there. And I know that because they told me to leave. Hang on, I have it. What would that have been? Would that have been, lamest protest ever, I called it. Here it is. In just a second. Here it is in 10 seconds. It's just downloading from the server. Here we go. All right, listen carefully. Listen to the lies told by Democrats.
I don't care about you or your podcast.
I would like you to leave.
There was no point to it except to annoy people.
There's a protest in town.
Okay, so there you go. The guy said, I would like you to leave. Could you imagine if that were me? Here, let me get to the part where they're chanting. Here it is.
Hey, no fear! Immigrants are welcome here! Immigrants are welcome here! Everyone say...
Okay, so there I am, minding my own business, and they're like, no hate, no fear, immigrants are welcome here. I'm an immigrant. I walk up, and then a few minutes later, a guy's like, I would like you to leave. And I'm like, whoa.
The deportations...
Here he is right here. This lady's like, I don't care about you. I don't care about your podcast. And then this guy's trying to throw me out. And I'm like, I thought I was welcome here. I'm an immigrant.
I kick you out, but what I'm going to ask you to do is avoid getting too close to people.
Well, I asked her for an interview.
I'm not, I'm only telling you that I'm going to ask you to not get close to people, yet kind of have the camera in some people's faces. So
Okay.
I would prefer you to leave. I prefer you to leave, but
Well, I get it, but it's a newsworthy event, right? Like, you're here for attention, are you?
I'm not answering questions. I'm just expressing that we'd like you to leave. Can't force you to leave, but we'd like you to leave.
Is there someone else here who I can talk to?
I would like you to leave.
I would like you to leave. Wait a minute. So 1 minute, they're like, no hate, no fear. Immigrants are welcome here. Me being an immigrant goes there to talk to them, and they're like, get out. So they're lying. Immigrants are not welcome there unless they're illegal immigrants. They only like criminals. They only like people. And again, it goes back to George Floyd. It goes back to Jussie Smollett. It goes back to, any and all the folks in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who were throwing their skateboards at what's his name, at Kyle Rittenhouse. All these criminals get embraced by the Abrego Garcia is a multi-tiered criminal. Abrego Garcia was a member of a gang. He came here illegally. He beat his wife on 2 occasions that we know of because she filed a restraining order on 2 different occasions. He was engaged in other illegal activity. He was deported, and the Democrats spent their own money and yours flying down there trying to demand that he get released. Why? Because he's an illegal immigrant. If he were a legal immigrant, they wouldn't care. If he were a legal immigrant, they'd be like, yeah, send him home. And you know what? Send Melania back too. Because that's all they really care about is illegal immigrants, because they're hoping that illegal immigrants will become Democratic voters through amnesty. And the reason they think that is because nobody else in their right mind would become a Democrat voter. They're bleeding support. They're bleeding money. They're almost bankrupt. They have no support. The people in charge of their party are lunatics. They have no message. They are all over. You got David Hogg, who's arguing with the Ragin' Cajun. You've got the other one, AOC and Jasmine Crockett, who are trying to lower the bar. It's like a race to the bottom with them. Meanwhile, LaMonica McIver's probably going to jail because she tried to break into an ICE facility, yet she's still somehow in Congress. That's interesting how that happens. I don't know how that happens, but it's happening. And that's the Democrat Party for you. And Hakeem Jeffries, who's technically the leader of the Democrat Party, that guy can't control anybody. That guy has no idea what's going on. AOC sets the agenda. AOC is the one saying we need to impeach President Donald Trump. Al Green gets in there with his cane and is like, I'll do it. And it fails miserably because half of the Democrats don't vote to impeach Donald Trump. They are a long way away from when Nancy Pelosi was leading the party. They are a long way away from that. And that's why they're now going after Melania Trump. It's an every man for himself in the Democrat Party right now. They all know that cumulatively as a party, they don't have power. Cumulatively as a party, they probably will not get back to power. Hopefully not. So they are in it for themselves. Jasmine Crockett is trying to get as much airtime as she can, so she has as many sound bites as she can get, so she can win re-election and continue to bolster her bottom line. You've got AOC doing the same thing. She needs more book deals in New York so that she can, go out and make more money. Bernie Sanders wants a 4th house, I'm sure. So he's on this fight oligarchy tour. Meanwhile, he's flying around on a private jet eating lobster and caviar with money from Friends of Bernie Sanders, his super PAC. So that's the Democrat Party in a nutshell. They don't have any cohesive ideas. They don't have any cohesive leadership, and they have hopefully no chance for the future. So what do? They attack anybody and everybody, from Donald Trump to Pete Hegseth to Melania Trump to God knows who's going to be next. Probably you. If they haven't attacked you already. Raisin Cain, by the way, General Raisin Cain, who was lifted up through the ranks by President Donald Trump for merit. Raisin Cain was a general in Iraq, and Donald Trump said, "Hey, can you get rid of ISIS?" And he goes, "Yeah, give me 2 weeks." And Donald Trump said, 2 weeks? They told me years. And he goes, "Who told you that?" He goes, "The generals in Washington, D.C." And General Raisin Cain said to the president, "No, sir, 2 weeks." Give me the order. And Donald Trump said, you have the order, and Raising Cane got rid of ISIS. I think it was like 12 days. I think he even beat his own record. So Donald Trump said, I'm going to promote you based on merit, because there's no DEI in Donald Trump's administration. There's no DEI in the Republican Party. It's all merit-based. And Raising Cane was meritorious. So now he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he had a thing or two to say about the leaks as well.
General, on Sunday you said final battle damage will take some time. And you also said, I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there at the nuclear facility. So that was just over 3 days ago. So what has changed? Would you use the term obliterated as well?
Sure, like I said, we don't do BDA. I'll refer that to the intelligence community. And
you're talking with them. I mean, what changed in the past 3 days that make you so,
sir, I think I
think I explained what changed. There was a great deal of irresponsible reporting based on leaks, preliminary information in low confidence. Again, when someone leaks something, they do it with an agenda. And when you leak a portion of an intelligence assessment, but just a little portion that makes it seem like maybe the strike wasn't effective, then you start a news cycle, whether it's the Washington Post or Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. You start a news cycle that starts to call into question the efficacy. No, that's why. So you bring the chairman here, who's not involved in politics. He doesn't do politics. That's my lane to understand and translate and talk about those types of things. So I can use the word obliterated. He could use defeat, destroyed, assess, all of those things. But ultimately, we're here to clarify what these weapons are capable of, which anyone with, two eyes, some ears, and a brain can recognize that kind of firepower with that specificity at that location and others is going to have a devastating effect. So we all recognize there will be days and weeks ahead. That's why yesterday I said, if you want to know what's going on at Fort O, you better go there and get a big shovel, because no one's under there right now. No one's under there able to assess, and everyone's using reflections of what they see. And that's why the Israelis, the Iranians, the IAEA, the UN, to a man and to a woman who recognize the capability of this weapon system, are acknowledging how destructive it's been. So that's what's changed.
Yeah. Pete Hegseth, I'm really coming into his own. He's got really getting into his lane, and he understands his role. He understands General Kane's role. He understands how he's handling the press, and he's doing a bang-up job. Caroline Leavitt, by the way, she also is just, everyone in the White House is just, I think leaking information at any branch, whether it's the White House, whether it's the executive branch, whether it's, the Oval Office, whether it's the Department of Defense or state, anywhere, if you leak information to the media, I just feel like that you're just the lowest of the low. And I don't even understand what the benefit there is to you. If you really have to be kind of egomaniacal, if you are trying to placate the press over the president. If you work at the Pentagon and you're taking these low-level reports and you're trying to get it out there so that the media will like you, to be liked by somebody as lecherous as the mainstream media, I just don't get that. I just don't understand why you would want that. That should never be anyone's goal. In fact, if the media likes you, you're probably living your life the wrong way. You probably need to reassess your choices and who you're hobnobbing with and who you're trying to really entertain and impress, because the media they're not the right people. Caroline Leavitt understands that too. She was also totally just annoyed beyond belief with these leaks coming out yesterday.
This was a low confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community. And it has been disputed by not just the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kaye, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran. And CNN didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said this was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep, and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
Throw her out like a dog. Throw her out like a dog. Fire her. That's Caroline Levitt, by the way. She's having a press briefing right now. Here's what she said also about this similar situation just moments ago.
When we look at the entirety of the intelligence that we have to this date, it concludes that these strikes on the Iranian nuclear facilities were absolutely successful. It was a total obliteration, as the president said. And not only does our own intelligence say that, but also the Iranian foreign minister has said that. We saw Israel conclude the same thing based on their own intelligence. We also had the United Nations say that as well. So I think the only other time the United Nations, Israel, Iran, and the United States has agreed on something is that the sky is blue, but they all agree that Iran's nuclear facilities were completely demolished.
Yeah, there you go. And that was just moments ago. It's the same thing over and over and over again. It's the same thing over and over and over again. And they are still trying to push this narrative that the strikes, again, as Pete Hegseth said, why are we not celebrating the incredible execution by our brave men and women? Why aren't we celebrating the fact that Iran is no longer a nuclear threat? Why are we attacking the attack? Why are we attacking the attackers? Why are we saying this attack was not nearly as successful as you claim? Because they want to see if they can catch Donald Trump in some kind of lie. They can't have Donald Trump win, even if it means protecting the lives of Americans, Israelis, Arabs, and pretty much everybody around the world. And it's having that effect. In fact, peace is going to be running rampant through the Middle East because the Abraham Accords are rampant. In fact, let me get to Steve Witkoff here real quick before we play Caroline Levitt. Steve Witkoff, who's the special envoy to the Middle East, said the Abraham Accords are bolstered by not having a nuclear Iran.
One of the president's key objectives is that the Abraham Accords be expanded, that more countries come into it, and we are working on that on my team and in coordination with the Secretary of State and the entire State Department. And we think we're going to have some pretty big announcements on countries that are now coming into the Abraham Peace Accords. And we're hoping for normalization across an array of countries that maybe people would have never contemplated would come in. So we're excited for that prospect. That will also be a stabilizer in the Middle East.
I mean, look at that. If you're a country and you're like, hey, everybody, we need peace in the Middle East, and some of the countries are like, yeah, I don't want peace in the I'm all about war. And then you're like, all right, let me go bomb Iran real quick. And everybody in the Middle East sees exactly what you're capable of, what your military capabilities are. Then they're going to be like, oh, wait a minute, that peace in the Middle East thing, I could get on board with that. That peace in the Middle East thing. Hey, you know what? I was being a little hasty. Let's come to the table. Let's talk about. Do you have room? Is there room for me in the Abraham Accords? Because I think I'd be interested. And Caroline Levitt spoke about that again moments ago here at the White House press briefing.
The president wants peace. He always has. And right now we're on a diplomatic path with Iran. The president and his team, namely Special Envoy Witkoff, continue to be in communication with the Iranians and especially our Gulf and Arab partners in the region to come to an agreement with Iran. As for our alliance with the State of Israel and that friendship and that partnership between the United States and the State of Israel, I would argue it has never been stronger. And we see a new era in which perhaps some of these Gulf and Arab states can sign on to the Abraham Accords. That was one of the president's most signature accomplishments in his first term, and he'd like to see more of those countries sign on in this second term. And so we look forward to sustaining a long and durable peace in the region, and the president wants to do that through a diplomatic solution. But as he proved on Saturday night, he's not afraid to use strength if we need to do it.
Yeah, peace through strength. That's literally his entire, that's like his thing. Peace through strength. That's how they roll. Anyway, that was Caroline Levitt at the press briefing moments ago, and she then, of course, launched into the second big battle that Donald Trump is facing, which we'll get to here in just a minute. First, though, let me just throw some thanks over at Jeff Tim, who dropped a $5 super chat and said, "Fight, Mark, fight. How about the Battle Hymn of the Republic for your theme song?" That's a great one. That's a great one, Jeff Tim. I love the Battle Hymn of the Republic. I'd have to find a copyright-free version, though, because whenever you use copyrighted music like that, they rip you to shreds. They take your stuff down. They dox you. They demonetize you. They cancel you. They do all that stuff. So as soon as I can find a good, solid, copyright-free version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic or some other really, really amazing and energetic, inspiring American patriotic music, we'll do that. But I appreciate the super chat, and I appreciate, of course, all your support. We are also still, of course, raising money for our congressional run on our website, markkayeforcongress.com. DefensePeteHegseth.com. And if you haven't yet given any donation, please do whatever you can today, because like I said, we're building up our war chest. We're fueling our fighters right now, and we need a lot of fuel. We're loading up the bombers, and we're going to need some of those bunker busters, because we're going after a long-term incumbent who's part of the establishment, is well-funded, and who has some name recognition as well, even though most of the time when people recognize his name, they go, "Ugh, blah, that guy's the worst." Still, he's got name recognition, so we need as much as we can get. And if you go to markkaye4congress.com, you can donate whatever you can donate, $25, $50. We'll take $10, $15, whatever it is, because every little bit helps. And we've got a big, long battle ahead of us, and we are ready to fight, but we're definitely going to need some. I got the guns. I'm just saying I got the weapons. We just need to make sure we have a lot of ammunition so that we can battle back when we're attacked, which we will be as soon as this thing starts to heat up. markkaye4congress.com. Thank you so much to everybody who's donated and everybody who's gonna. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are gonna. Anywho, so there's the other big battle, which is the battle of the one big beautiful bill. The one big beautiful bill is out there, and it is ready to go, hopefully, except the parliamentarian in the Senate keeps ripping stuff out. Look, this bill has got to pass. And Steve Mirren was on one of these shows, and he basically, I'm not saying this guy has like an apocalyptic nature or he's like a doomsday guy, but listen to what he said about the one big beautiful bill and the implications of it not passing.
I'm confident for a couple of reasons. One, if we don't do it, it's going to be a disaster. It'll be the biggest tax hike in history, a $4 trillion tax hike on American workers, American families, American businesses. It'll plunge the economy into recession, and it'll be a bad outcome for everybody. There's nobody who will escape that. It'll be a disaster, right?
Okay, so this is good. This is great. He's like, oh yeah, no, I'm confident we're going to pass it, because if not, it's going to be mass chaos and everyone will be doomed. Which you're not wrong, but he's like, we gotta pass it. And then here's what he said next.
So there's absolutely an imperative to get it over the line. On the other hand, if you do get it over the line, it creates so many incentives for better economic growth, right? The incentives in this bill for better investment from companies, building factories, building new work sites, investing in equipment, hiring new workers are so strong. The tax rewards for American families, American workers, things like no tax on overtime, no tax on tips, tax relief on seniors. These are very powerful in generating economic growth. And if the bill passes, growth will be about 4.6 to 4.9% higher over the next 4 years, a little bit more than 1% a year relative to a not passing. So the incentives are really in favor of passing the bill.
Yeah. So basically what he's saying is, we got to pass this bill. If not, we're all screwed. We got to pass the bill. And that's something, look, and I'm not saying that Donald Trump's did that on purpose, but Donald Trump understands how politics works. He's got to put forth a bill that is palatable to everybody and devastating should it not pass. Because if it doesn't pass, and God forbid all of these things happen, then whoever didn't vote for it is to blame, whether it's the Democrats, whether it's Rand Paul, whether it's Rand Paul and the Democrats, whether it's Thomas Massie, whether it's Ron Johnson, whoever it is, whoever doesn't come to the table with a yes vote, Donald Trump can say, well, now we're going to be plunged into recession. Why? Because you didn't want the tax increases. Now our economy is going to explode. Why? Well, because you wouldn't allow me these economic resources to bolster our economy and bring down the $1 trillion in debt we have and increase our growth by 4%. As we heard from what's his name? Steve Mirren. Mike Falconer, who's the Deputy Treasury Secretary, he said basically the same thing. We cannot fail. If we fail, they're really good at hyperbolic descriptions of this bill. If we fail, then the United States is basically over.
We know full well failure is not an option. We are going to get this bill done because we are not going to have a $4.5 trillion tax increase at the end of this year, and we are not going to default on our debt. We always need to remember this reconciliation bill contains an extension of the debt ceiling, and we at Treasury have already told Congress that you need to get this done before you go on your August recess. So we anticipate that we are going to continue to work 24/7, as the president has said. We'll lock people in a room and get it done. But we continue to believe that we are going to have a breakthrough very shortly so that we keep on track for our July 4th timeframe for the president signing this.
There we go. We got a July 4th timeframe, and we're going to do it, and failure is not an option. And guess who's in the press briefing room basically saying the exact same thing right now? Yep, Caroline Leavitt, who's saying we need to make sure. Where is it? Where's that clip? Oh, here it is. We need to make sure that we're doing this for all
Later
Americans.
this afternoon here at the White House, the president will host a One Big Beautiful event in the East Room to rally Republicans to get the One Big Beautiful bill across the finish line. At that event, he will be joined by everyday Americans from across the country who will massively benefit from the common sense policies and provisions within this bill. This is the largest tax cut for working and middle-class Americans in history, and it's going to put more money into the pockets of hardworking Americans. Families will see an average increase in take-home pay of more than $10,000 per year. Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 per year will see a 15% tax cut. Overtime and tipped workers will save thousands of dollars annually. And our amazing seniors will receive historic financial relief by reducing the tax burden on their Social Security benefits. Simply put, this bill is going to unlock the golden age of America. And we look forward to continuing to work with the Senate and the House to see this bill on the president's desk for signature by Independence Day.
Okay, so that's again, and again, you're hearing the same things over and over again. This is exactly what we used to do in the radio. You know, when I worked in the radio business and music radio, people would always say, why do you play the same songs over and over again? And I'd say, well, number one, it's because those are the only songs you like. We only play songs people like, and people only like the songs they know. And number two, it's a way for you to basically become familiar with it. It's ingrained in your memory. That's why ads run over and over again. These lawyers, they run these ads constantly. If you're in a car accident, call this person and this person. If you're in an accident at the grocery store, call this person and this person. If you have a claim, don't call your doctor, call the lawyer first, which is probably never good advice, but that's the advice that the lawyers give. Before you call your doctor, call the lawyer. And then we'll tell you which doctor to go to so that we can file whatever claim we think is going to be most lucrative. Anyway, that's the whole thing. It's repeating the message over and over again so that it just becomes second nature. And nobody out there on the other side is doing the same thing, or at least they're not getting the press time. Rand Paul, if he really didn't like this bill, he should be on TV every single day, just as often as Caroline Leavitt. He should be on social media every single day. He should be getting together an army, a battalion, if you will, of Senate leaders and conservative thinkers who are out there saying why the bill should not pass. Why? But he's not. Donald Trump has his entire armada. Tom Homan, who is the border czar. Every time he talks to the press, what does he mention? The One Big Beautiful Bill. Why? Well, because it affects the border. It affects what's happening at the border. It affects border security. It affects funding for the border. It affects hiring new border guards and agents, making sure that they're getting bonus, making sure they're getting their pensions, all that kind of stuff. It goes to not just retention, but also a recruitment of new border agents. And so Tom Homan is like, hey guys, we're deporting people. We're getting rid of people. It's great. But also One Big Beautiful Bill. We need the One Big Beautiful Bill so we can keep doing it. And that is exactly the message coming out of the White House repeatedly. Now, there are, like I said, other people that are discussing the One Big Beautiful Bill. And one of the problems we have now is with the parliamentarian. A lot of people are asking for the parliamentarian to be fired because the parliamentarian is basically destroying the One Big Beautiful Bill. Let me pull up this story from Fox News. GOP senator calls... There it is. GOP senator calls for parliamentarians firing after serving Medicaid blow to Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. Kansas senator cites 2001 precedent when Trent Lott fired the parliamentarian during the reconciliation process. Basically, here's what's going on. Fury erupted. Nick Fury. Fury erupted among conservatives Thursday morning following the news that Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough ruled several key reforms and tweaks to Medicaid in the Senate GOP's version of President Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill did not pass muster with Senate rules. That means that the current provisions that do not comply with the Byrd rule must be stripped, but Republicans can still scramble to rewrite and resubmit the policy to the parliamentarian. However, Senator Roger Marshall, Republican Kansas, wants immediate action taken against the parliamentarian. In 2001, Majority Leader Trent Lott fired the Senate parliamentarian during reconciliation, Marshall told Fox News Digital. It's 2025 during reconciliation, and we need to again fire the Senate parliamentarian. He argued that based upon early reports, the parliamentarian's rulings against myriad provisions in the bill may erase up to $500 billion in spending cuts, which could hamper the bill's survival among fiscal hawks and miss the goal of hitting up to $2 trillion in spending cuts over the next decade. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has made clear he did not intend to overrule the parliamentarian. Fox News Digital reached out to the top Senate Republican for comment. Now, the issue is that this woman is not a Republican. She was appointed by a Democrat. Marshall, like other congressional Republicans, was particularly incensed over the parliamentarian's rulings that gutted numerous changes Senate Republicans made to the widely used Medicaid program that triggered conservatives. Basically, the way I read it, or the way I understand it, is the parliamentarian said that it's no longer a simple majority to overrule Medicaid for illegal immigrants. You would then need a supermajority of a supermajority of 60 votes in order to do so. Yeah, here it is. Among the axed provisions was the Senate GOP's harsher crackdown on the Medicaid provider rate, or the amount that state Medicaid programs pay to providers on behalf of Medicaid beneficiaries, which proved a divisive policy among some in the conference. Other provisions that were nixed, including denying states Medicaid funding for having illegal immigrants on the benefit rolls, preventing illegal immigrants from participating in Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program, and preventing Medicaid and CHIP funding from going toward gender-affirming care. Republicans viewed those as key cost-saving changes, and their removal has likely set back their plan to put the mammoth bill on Trump's desk by July 4th. The parliamentarian is chosen by the Senate Majority Leader and serves term limits in the role. Marshall wants to end that practice and plans to introduce a resolution on Thursday that would only be allowed to serve one 6-year term. The current parliamentarian has been in office since 2012. Appointed by Harry Reid, a Democrat, Marshall said, "This is not an elected position. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Term limits on a person with this absolute power need to be implemented." So the battle is now against the parliamentarian, who is doing her darndest to thwart Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill. Why? She's a Democrat. And that's all it comes down to. That's all it comes down to. And the parliament, I mean, look, the fact that they're making it so difficult for the Republicans to get illegal immigrants out of Medicaid, again, just shows you what we were talking about earlier, that they only care about illegal immigrants. They don't care about legal immigrants. They only care about illegal immigrants, and they want to do everything they possibly can to keep illegal immigrants happy, and while ignoring not only legal immigrants, but American citizens. And the best thing for them. They're, by the way, X is just all over this woman. Meet Elizabeth McDonough, says C3. She is the Senate parliamentarian. Not one American voted for her, but she is attempting to legislate for Americans. She wants to deny the Americans the mandate we voted for. Remember, when the Senate Dems were all literally screaming that Elon was an unelected person running Doge, well, they neglected to tell you this. The Senate parliamentarian is an unelected position. The Senate parliamentarian is appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the Senate Majority Leader. They are not elected by the public or by the Senate membership. Incumbent parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough has held that office since 2012, appointed by then Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. If the Senate GOP or Leader Thune aren't going to do or say anything about this, I will. And then there's some wordy dirds that I'm not gonna repeat. But this is basically what's going on. Gunther Eagleman, breaking. John Thune is refusing to rein in parliamentarian. She just axed the provision that would have prevented illegal aliens from getting Medicare. This is outrageous. Thune needs to fire her immediately. Breaking. Democrats have been exposed of using this far left Senate parliamentarian appointed in 2012. That's from Bo Loudon. Representative Keith Self. The rogue Senate parliamentarian should be overruled just like activist judges. John Thune, I mean, there's a reason why John Thune is not overruling the parliamentarian or firing the parliamentarian or calling for the parliamentarian to step down or any of those things. And one of those concerns is the concern we've always had about John Thune, that John Thune was groomed by Mitch McConnell to replace him in the position of Senate Majority Leader. And John Thune has been around for a very long time, and John Thune has had some questionable votes. And John Thune may be as entwined in the deep state as his predecessor. And when you're entwined in the deep state like Mitch McConnell, well, guess what? Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid worked together a very, very long time. It's interesting. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting problem to have. And now Look, they're breaking. Calls from multiple GOP senators and House members are mounting for John Thune to fire the Harry Reid Democrat-appointed parliamentarian after she decimates MAGA priorities out of the big, beautiful bill. I don't know that Donald Trump has spoken about this yet. Let me check here real quick. Let me check here real quick. I don't know that there's been any word from the White House about this. Maybe Caroline Leavitt was asked something about it in the press briefing. No, that's about the leaks. Miami Herald. No, but this is shaping up to be a big story because remember, there is a time limit on this. July 4th is when they want this bill on the president's desk, the one big beautiful bill. And anybody who gets in the way of that, Democrat or Republican, will most likely suffer the wrath of President Donald Trump. No word yet, but we will keep an eye, of course, on Truth Social and on X to make sure that when the president does speak of the parliamentarian, which I imagine he will do, we'll be able to bring you that information ASAP. Listen, there's so much going on. We're so excited, by the way. We're so excited by all the stuff going on, not just what's going on in Washington, D.C. with the one big beautiful bill, not just what Pete Hegseth smacking around the press corps, including his former friends and allies, but we're also really excited about the congressional race coming up in 2026. And really, I'll be honest with you, I am thrilled about the new golden age. And the new golden age it's an incredible opportunity really for anybody. Last night we did a live thing, which was really amazing. And we had so much fun, and unfortunately it's over. We may do it again. We may do it again here before too long, but it was called Podcast Profits, and it was me pulling back the curtain on how I create these podcasts and how I promote these podcasts and how I profit from these podcasts, because this is a business. I am a media mogul. I am running a media company, an entertainment and information conglomerate, and the job of an entertainment and information conglomerate is, of course, to provide a service in exchange for money. And it's interesting when you do what we do, there are very curious and interesting ways to monetize it that's beneficial to both you and your audience. I don't know if we'll do another Podcast Profits in the next week or so. Next week's a holiday, so probably not. But in the meantime, if you're interested to know a little bit more about it, you should visit my dollarsforfollowers.com program. The link is in the description of this video. Dollars for Followers it's a recorded program. We used to do this masterclass all the time. And what we've done is we've taken the masterclass, and instead of doing it live, we've recorded it and we've placed it up where you can get it anytime you want. So if you're interested in learning how to take your social media content, whether it's a podcast or an Instagram post or a YouTube video, and if you're interested in learning how to make at least $1 for every follower you have, which means if you have 1,000 followers, you should be making at least $1,000 from your social media. If you have 2,000, you should be making at least 2,000. We've got testimonials from actual students. We've got a whole description of what you're going to learn in the class. It's ready for you. It's recorded. It's at your leisure. As soon as you register, you can start learning all these amazing things. And it's at a highly discounted rate. Go to dollarsforfollowers.com, dollarsforfollowers.com. And I'm telling you, you can register and be watching this thing immediately. And by tonight, you'll know exactly how to take your social media and start earning at least $1 for every follower that you have. That's my goal. There's a 100% money back guarantee, so there's really no reason for you not to try it out. Listen, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks so much to everybody who has subscribed to this podcast. If you have not yet subscribed to this podcast, now would be a great time to do it. Wherever you're watching, set those notifications. Let the platform, your preferred platform, know that you like this content, you want this content, you enjoy this content, you learn from this content, you crave this content. And you want it every single time we post it, whether it's iTunes or Spotify, whether it's YouTube or Rumble, wherever you happen to be. Make sure you're following Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, because we're going to be here every single day. Oh, a word on next week. Next week is the week of July 4th. July 4th is next Friday. We're traveling, but we'll be doing the podcast every single day. We'll be bringing you the 47 Daily every single day because it's important. We're coming up on the deadline for the one big beautiful bill. And even though I'll be at the beach, I'll still be broadcasting so that you can get the information you need. And should the one big beautiful bill pass, we'll let you know about it. Should it not pass, we'll let you know what's going to happen next. If Donald Trump speaks or comes out with some kind of statement, which I imagine he will be doing, I imagine what's going to happen is he will we will be ready to bring that to you. So don't worry about a thing. But make sure you're subscribed so that we can continue to bring you all of this great stuff so that you're entertained, you're informed, you're enlightened, you're inspired, and you're prepared to fight so that we can all save the Republic. We will have an after party starting here in 3 brief minutes. If you're not a member of the Katriots Club, go to katriots.com to become a member so you can join us for the after party, again, beginning in 3 brief minutes.